Hello there, listener, and to this episode of Hacker Talk. My name is Philip, and I will be your host today. Joining me today is a really interesting person who I've sometimes seen active in the Romanian infosec community. He's a great security researcher straight from Kaspersky's research department, a great mind fighting malware at the global research and analytics team at Kaspersky, which is great. Joining me today is Dan Demeter. How are you doing today, Dan?
Hello, thanks a lot for the invite. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. So, you're involved in a lot of cool malware projects. But before we jump into all of that, I want to hear kind of how did you end up in the infosec space and how did you get here?
Oh, wow. It's kind of like I would say funny story, or maybe some might say it's kind of like a traditional story. It all started when I got my first computer. And, in Eastern Europe, it's kind of hard to get like computers, and myself, I'm in my 30s. Back in 1999 or 2005, it was kind of like hard to get hands on your computer. So my father came home with a Pentium 1, so 200 megahertz, so 64 megabytes of RAM. And he brought it home, and he was like, I don't know what to do with this one. Take it. I heard it's something interesting. So I got this computer. I heard from a friend that you can install Windows 98 on it. I installed it after many tries, and this was in the beginning. This was at the start of kind of secondary school, and then at high school, there were a lot of websites, a lot of street CTFs. It's not like today's landscape, and I was participating in a lot of CTFs, capture the flag competitions, and you might know hack this site.
HackthisSite.org. Great.
HackthisSite.org, crazy stuff. Also back then there were developing this the fathers of I would say 0-day. I wouldn't say 0-day disclosure, but mealworm. If you remember mealworm.
Yeah, of course. One of the first website, or one of the first website to take vulnerability.
Yeah, everybody would post their exploits and things like that. And basically mealworm, there was this the one I can't remember right now. The guys who are doing Kali Linux, which was called Backtrack back then, offensive security one. They had a mailing list. Yeah. So I was browsing those websites. Again, there was a period in Bucharest where internet was neighborhood network. People would go on the block of flats, and they would literally they would drop network cables like RJ45 network cables back to your apartment. They would drill through your window, and they would connect your computer on a switch which was on the top of the block of flats. And whenever there was a storm, the switch would get electrocuted, or it would get flooded. Yeah. So this is how I started.
Oh shit! It's a it's a way to get free internet, I guess.
It wasn't free, I would say. They would connect people. So basically, what they were doing, they would have these switches. I think Cisco, or I don't know what was there, and they would install them on each block of flats. They would throw network cables to connect one block of flat with another. And do you want me to tell you a funny story of how can you connect two blocks of flats with a simple network cable? Do you know how?
No, how do you do it?
You have to throw it, but there are other cables. There are other longer cables. So you need to have a way to throw it, so it goes all the way as close as possible to your target, to the destination building. So basically what you do, you connect it to the potato. I shit you not, you connect the potato to it and you throw the potato. So if it lands on a car, on the windshield, it won't damage the car.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you dock it into a potato and just throw the potato.
Yeah, from the building, and somebody at the ground floor would catch the potato or not.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so this is how we started. This is how it all came. There weren't a lot of CTFs websites. I think I remember one, hellboundhackers.org. That was British one. I lurked on their web forums a lot there. And then at university, I started doing CTF. So that was kind of like a clear path.
It's nice. And email mailing list you're referring to is called Bugtraq, right? Or it used to be.
It used to be called Bugtraq, yeah. But I think there were multiple ones, and I can't remember all of them. But that was the main one. Also, I was on the mailing list for the Nmap mailing list. There was actually the guy who developed Nmap. They were like posting a lot of stuff. And before it was called ZMap or something like that. Something like that. But I don't know. I don't remember. I can't remember right now. Sorry.
Oh, that's cool. Do you remember if there were any moment that was like a light bulb moment for you? Maybe when you like pulled off your first successful exploit and got a revert shell and you were like, wow, this is really cool.
So the idea is that I'm not like a red teamer. I've never was. So I don't have any 0 days exploits found. I don't like do reversing. I don't like, I kind of like on the defense side. When I was younger, I think I remember one moment. And it was this, if you remember, like in Eastern Europe, basically right after dial-up or before dial-up, there were net cafes. There were clubs with computers. And maybe for our younger listeners, you might not know what a net cafe is. And basically, it's a room full of computers and connected to the internet because you didn't have internet at home. And people would go there and buy like packages for like 1 hour, 2 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours. Then you would just sit there on the computer, like chatting with people on Mirk or Yahoo Messenger or ICQ. I think ICQ was more popular in Western Europe. But in Eastern Europe or in Romania, Yahoo Messenger and Mirk, those are like if you didn't have Yahoo Messenger, you wouldn't exist. So of course I had. And there were like a lot of exploits for Yahoo Messenger, like to buzz the window for somebody, and basically they would like get like a DDoS for buzzing and things like that. So I was going to net cafes, and obviously, like like a adolescent or like a kid, I wanted to play Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
and this is what I was playing: Counter-Strike and Warcraft 3. I don't know what games were you playing like 20 years ago.
I was also into Counter-Strike 1.6. I was really
1.6, yeah. Old school.
And I remember how Counter-Strike Source got released, and I thought that was very fun. Spent a lot of hours there.
Yeah, Source was like a big, major step. Back then, I remember I was playing 1.6 for Half-Life also, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 1, Brood Wars was like the norm, and Red Alert. That was like...
Red Alert, I remember that.
Red Alert.
Gosh,
yeah.
Play that like...
Yeah. They actually released an redesigned basically it's with better they improved all the graphics, but the engine is the same. Remastered. Check it out, Red Alert Remastered. It looks like awesome. So basically I was playing games, and I was playing games like all fucking summer, and of course I didn't have money, so just to understand, of bread, like a piece of bread, was like a price of 1 hour of internet. I don't afford to stay a lot of times. So there was this time, actually, the net cafes, they were using a web which was used to actually strip down the entire Windows 98 or Windows 2000. You didn't have a start button. You didn't have a way to access files, Windows Explorer. Basically, it was like kind of locked down, so you couldn't like do things to it. And my proudest moment was when I managed to, like, they had Total Commander, and from Total Commander I managed to go to like cmd.exe, execute cmd.exe, kill the monitoring task, and I stayed for like 8 hours, and I paid for only 2. And that's kind of illegal, but I kind of knew the guy there, and when he was like kind of doing his stuff, like it was called the admin of the net cafe, and he was like, you stayed longer than expected, like fine, go home now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I still like feel like you can find those like old Windows boxes that are very like restrict and patterned down, and they run some kind of application on it, like
Yeah, they were running.
Windows XP boxes.
They were running an app, and basically the admin could it was a RAT, a remote administration tool, kind of. It wasn't a Trojan, I would say. And basically the administrator had access to your computer. He could lock it. He could log you off. This is how you would go there. You would go to the admin. You would pay the money. Well, he could put it on your tab and then stay as much as you wanted. And then he would say, go to unit 5 and 6. And sometimes I would ask my friend, can you put us into like 2 units next to each other? So I could see where he was in Counter-Strike, so I could kill him.
Shit.
But also he could see me, so yeah.
Yeah.
And would unlock those units, and then you could play.
That's nice. I recently saw a block of like 5 internet cafes in one city in Albania. I was there a couple of months ago. I was still surprised that it's actually still a thing in some countries.
Well, I think they actually, a lot of them disappeared. Nowadays you have internet on your phone, so meh.
Yeah, you have Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah, Wi-Fi everywhere on your phone, 4G, 5G, like. But for the dedicated gamers, there still are. Also, there's one in Bucharest called Nexus Gaming, and this is where I went there to watch the Dota 2 championships. So that was nice.
Nexus, is that the one close to Piazza Romana? No,
it is closer. Yes, but now they closed and they moved to another kind of like different sector district. But it used to be there. Yes.
All right. I think I walked past it.
Yeah. You could see like a big screens and streaming games on Twitch, and in the back you could see like computers and people would play. Well, nowadays, like I saw they were playing Fortnite, they were playing like FIFA, a lot of FIFA on PlayStation and Modern Warfare. So yeah, I think times change, you know.
Yeah, they do, and it's like esport coffee places and esport bars are also becoming a thing.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like 10 or 15 years ago, no one would ever think of that. You know, you go to the bar and pub and you watch ice hockey or football or whatever, but now you can go and drink beer and watch esports.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a total, like, you know, it's a total discussion. It's like, yeah, it's about...
Sorry for interrupting. I thought we could jump into some threat intel. Start going down that rabbit hole, so to say.
Yeah, basically what I was hired for.
Yes. So how did you start working with threat intel?
So basically after university, you know, after learning like some more skills, gaining some more skills, learning about like computers and yada, I got like I applied for a job, you know, like in Kaspersky's grade. And Kaspersky's grade, as you mentioned before, Global Research and Analysis team. Basically, they are doing threat intelligence and research into like APTs. And they've been doing it for like 12 years or so. And I joined Kaspersky in 2014. So kind of in the golden age of APTs and threat intelligence from my point of view. Now, I think we should actually tell our listeners what is an APT.
Certainly. APT we're referring to as an advanced persistent threat, right?
Yep, that's correct. And basically, it's a group of people, maybe some ranging from one person to like, I don't know, thousands of people, I might say, but it's kind of exaggerated. 1 to 100. And they are basically trying to get access to your data or get access to your network, and with multiple purposes. Some APT groups are financially motivated. Let's say they want to steal money. They want to steal your money. They want to steal your tokens. They want to steal your cryptocurrency. Some APT groups are motivated by stealing company secrets or state secrets, or like getting advantage over competitive advantage over another company. It might happen. It might happen. Some APT groups might target like pharma or like financial institutions, as I mentioned, and we've seen a huge change between in what APTs were doing, like APT groups were doing in the early 2010, like 10 years ago to 11 years ago, and what they're doing now. But in short, basically threat intelligence means tracking them, discovering their like malware, discovering their exploits, defending against them, and writing reports for like whoever wants to read the reports to better protect themselves if they are victims or if they are like trying to defend themselves.
So since this is like not the normal virus you would get by downloading or torrenting down a movie or something like that, these are more very, very sophisticated malware. How do you actually find malware samples like that in the wild? How do you get your hands on it so you can play with it?
This is a really good question. And you pointed out correctly that usually like an APT is not something that you would like find regularly on your inbox. Now, again, depends on your threat level. Who is your threat modeling? Depends who is against. But going back to what you said, usually there are like kind of three types that we present and we talk about in our presentations. And there's like kind of like a pyramid, but basically it's like 90% of the malware, it's traditional malware, like keyloggers, cryptocurrency miners, ransomware, malware, etc. So this is kind of the malware that you would see when you download a Trojanized game from the torrents, or where you download like let's say some exploited, like let's say you're looking for like a cracked Office, Microsoft Office, and some versions might have this like a bundle with malware in there. Also, this is because usually when you download the cracked version of a software, which we do not recommend, obviously, but people are doing it whatsoever. Usually what happens in that situation is that they also have like a keygen, or they have like an activator code or things like that. And antivirus programs, they identify this activator as not a virus, but they actually raise an alert on it. This is like a tool used by hackers, yada, yada, yada. And people, in order to avoid these warnings, they just say allow. And you might have a malware in this like Microsoft Office installer, but you think it's the activator, but it's actually malware. So this was kind of like a side story. So this is like traditional malware. Now, the remaining 10%, usually 9% or 9.9% of this stuff, it's actually targeted malware. So when I say targeted malware, I mean like attackers who are studying your network, who are studying your company, or who are studying you as a person. They look at what you're doing, they look who you interact with through your Twitter, through your posts, through your whatever, Facebook. And then after they study you, they will try to attack you, but with more information. So their attack seems more legit. And we've seen like a lot of attacks happening and maybe we can talk about this a little bit later, attacks in the cryptocurrency world, in the cryptocurrency startups, where the attackers are profiting from the fact that if you have like a cryptocurrency project, you need to be as transparent as possible so that the community trusts you. And because you are as transparent as possible, the attackers understand organization chart, they understand who's like doing what, who's the CTO, who's the CEO. And when they launch the attack, they would send you, let's say you are the CTO, they would send you an email pretending to be from the CEO. Hey, Alexander, this is whatever, Michael, CEO, and please, can you do this for me? And then if you're not paying attention, You might download the malware, you might download the attachment, and then you get your computer infected. So this is like targeted attacks. And then 0.1% are APT attacks, which are kind of like super targeted. They don't want their malware to be out in the open. They are like selecting specific targets who to attack. Of course, those APT attacks, and we can discuss about this one later, they have like 1 stage, 2nd stage, 3rd stage, up to 33 stages. We've had we released a blog post on a Kaspersky this summer, and this Kaspersky malware, they had like more than 30 stages. So basically they were checking, is your computer correct? Is your like operating system? Is this like the correct organization? Yada, yada, yada. And only after all those checks were true, they would deploy the malware. So it's like super, super advanced. And now to answer your question, how do we find it? This is the job of a threat intelligence, like a researcher, or like a researcher doing threat intelligence. We try to find it either in the wild, or we try to find it like whether somebody tries to attack clients, users who are using Kaspersky. So whenever somebody like an APT is trying to attack you, and you have Kaspersky installed, we have protection mechanisms in order to block the attack. And then if we like identify something, or if there's like something suspicious, we can further analyze the attack based on the telemetry that we receive, and then we can identify and find and see like, hey, this you were targeted, like, or you were not targeted, or like this was like this like specific attack. So this is in a nutshell.
So you touched on a really interesting point there. Would be cool to go a bit deeper on, and it's basically these advanced viruses. They basically have a lot of cells for anti-debugging features, such as a mechanism in order to verify that they're actually on this person's computer before it executes. So how do you how do you emulate that? Because that's really really hard. I know when I was doing malware analysis, I just had scripts that emulate the user, and then I put them on one of those VMs. But that's a really, really, really hard thing to do, emulate behavior.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm not the right person to ask, mostly because I mentioned in the beginning that I'm not doing reversing. But I can tell you from more the experience and what I've seen from my colleagues, what they're doing, and what because I've been asking them, hey, can you show me how you do this and that, and this is how we learn from each other. Yeah. And what I've seen is that they are doing like static and dynamic analysis. That's for sure. So you have like only DBG, or insert your favorite static analyzer. But personally, I prefer only DBG, which is actually funny because this is what I used to do like back in like 20 years ago. Again, when I was like doing CTS and I was like analyzing like binaries, and I was doing some reversing in high school, only DBG. So you have that one, and then you go and you follow, you try to like decompile, etc., etc. You also have IDA, and most of us, we do have IDA. I don't have an IDA license, but all my reversing colleagues, they do have like IDA licenses. So, this is standard in the industry. Some people I've seen they're using Hydra or Gydra. That's the NSA tool, this DNSA decompiler. And basically you have like this tool, and then you also have like, you're doing like dynamic analysis, as I mentioned with you can do it with, now correct me if I'm wrong, I think you can do it with IDA as well. I think you can do it. And then you step through all the functions and you see what's happening. Now, the tricky part and the really baddest part is how many IDA plugins and what kind of like plugins you have. Because I've seen that some colleagues, they have like a VM Protect plugins, or like some sort of like decompilers for some specific platforms, for some exoteric language, or like for Go language, like you have like kind of like plugins, and it depends a lot on your tools. But yeah, you fire up IDA, you fire up your plugins, your tools, and then you start going step by step. You see what's happening. You identify the Mario. You research. You see it's the running of the first stage if some conditions are met. And I also seen that in kind of extreme, the most hardcore cases, you fire up a VM, you prepare it, you modify registry, you modify parameters, and you make it look like a real workstation, and then you fire up the malware in there and you analyze it. You take memory dumps and then you analyze the memory dump. That's kind of it.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. But malware, is sometimes very hard to detect because I guess there's a rat race between malware makers on who can obfuscate their malware the best. But what do you think is the most innovative malware obfuscation technique that you see?
That's an interesting question. From what I've seen so far, some basically malware families or a lot are trying to use off-the-shelf software. You don't want to have a very, very specific obfuscation technique because we will catch you. We will catch you with Yara rules. So you have to be very careful because some of the Yara rules that I've been writing on and my colleagues are writing are catching on very specific encryption routines, like odd encryption, very specific initialization vectors for encryptions, or specific mutexes, etc., etc. So there's a balance, a fine balance between if you use a very custom stuff, and then we can cluster the malware family because of the custom stuff. We can cluster it, or you use common off-the-shelf stuff like VM Protect, and you just pack your malware with VM Protect, and then you add multiple stages, like checks and stages. And nowadays, from what I've seen, and my opinion is that you don't want to send the full malware with full capabilities at once. Now you send initially a recon dropper, a malware which will sit on the computer. Maybe it has some backdoor capabilities, connecting to a C2 server, and then you can log in on the victim machine. You do some reconnaissance. You see network name, company, domain, username, etc. Maybe you deploy some other tools like Mimikatz or stuff to see if maybe you can find some passwords. And then when you're sure this is the victim, bam, you deploy the second stage or the third stage, and then you that's the real malware that can do stuff, because you can get caught and you don't want to do that. I hope this answered your question.
Yeah. Kind of things back to the other question as well, as you have some kind of environment detection mechanism that scans the system and does, like you said, recon before it actually pops off the regular malware. But so has there ever been any incident where you guys in the team have discovered some unknown, very serious APTs? And what are some kind of indicators that you capture something that is really, really bad?
Oh, wow. Well, there's been a few times, more than 10, where we managed to find a really interesting or serious APT. And I can mention some of the things that we published. I would say the most crazy stuff is the Lazarus group, which basically it's a bunch of guys, which is confirmed that it was from North Korea, and they hacked multiple institutions. But the most the biggest hack of them is a bank in Bangladesh. They infiltrated the bank's network. They issued a series of Swift transfers, and they made a typo, and they were trying to do 4 transfers of $1 billion. And because of the typo, which was caught by, I think, Deutsche Bank in Germany, the transfers were from American US Federal Reserve, is where Bangladeshi banks kept their money. The U.S. Federal Reserve put some like bank in where was it? Philippines.
It was in. They were trying to. I read this on Wikipedia 2 days ago. So they got stopped in New York for basically, as you said, they had a typo and they were trying to transfer a bit over 800 million to the Philippines and Malaysia.
Philippines,
I think.
Yeah. Their first transfer went through, but the next ones didn't because of the typo. Well, but the craziest part on this hack was that they modified the printer driver such that like it's a standard on Swift computers. When you issue the transfer, it would print out, so you have like a paper trail. And they modified the printer driver so when it would see a specific document to be printed, the driver would not print it. So
that's really cool. And they got into the manufacturer's update repository, or they backdoor?
No. I mean, they were owning the computer. They were owning the computer, doing the Swift transfer.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
They owned everything. They owned everything, so they could do whatever. But they knew that the computer would print out, so they modified the drivers not to print. So that was like also crazy. And they also did it on a bank holiday, which wasn't a holiday in US. It was on a Friday, I think. So the transfer went through. It was crazy. Now another hack, which was like super crazy, is the one that my colleagues, not me, presented at our security analyst conference. It's called SAS. It's organized by Kaspersky. It's happening every year, but nowadays with the pandemic, it's kind of like online. You might have heard about SAS this year because we did it in a retro style, like in the 80s style. And I have like this, I was also a moderator there, and I was like streaming from the backyard of my grandma, and I was wearing the leather jacket, and I had like this cool artifacts from the communist time. They were given to me by my friend journalist Andrada, and basically I was like I was streaming from my grandma's house, and it was a kind of retro stuff. And yeah, this is where we presented the Kaspersky malware, which was like it's a really nice one. Hey PT. But the one I want to talk about is like which was presented at SAS 2015, and it's called From Houston with Love, and it's Equation Group. Check out Equation Group on Wikipedia to see who they are. I don't want to say it, but basically they had this APT, this malware, which was doing persistence by infecting the hard disk firmware. So it would infect your Windows, and then it would jump into your hard disk firmware. And then you could install Windows, but it would like still be like your fresh installation would still be infected by the hard disk firmware. Yeah, that was.
So it was like firmware in the file system.
It was no, the firmware from the actual hard disk.
Oh,
yeah. Each component has a firmware
in the.
So basically, look, if you have like a laptop with a SIM card that you can insert your SIM card into it, yeah, that SIM card socket has like a modem, and the modem itself, it's running Java. Or it ran Java like some years ago when I did the research. It's running Java, and you can actually upload programs to it. Because if you remember,
you have SIM cards nowadays should have like some Java runtime on them.
They do have, yes, Java. They do. And if you remember, this is the reason why back in the days in like Romania or Eastern Europe, you would have games that came with a SIM card. So if you had like a SIM card from Orange or from Vodafone, which was Connex back then, you would have the games there. It would like
bloatware.
Kind of bloatware, yeah, on your phone. Because of course it was like Nokia phones, Symbian, yada yada. All of them were running Java. Like it was no doubt. So yeah, each device has its own firmware, runs something. Also, your CPU has an extra processor in it, which is a Minix processor, and that processor runs with the privilege of like full admin privilege. So your CPU has another CPU in it, mostly Intel CPUs. It's running Minix, and if you have access to that CPU, then you can own the computer. So
You're
that's
talking about the management engine.
management module. Yes.
Yeah.
IMM.
That's a really scary one. Especially, what was it? 2 years ago, they came out an exploit for that was affecting with the Intel's management engine, and it's like, it affects
It's
90% of the internet, something like that.
Yeah, it's running like super, like, come on, old operating, like super minimalistic operating system, you know? So yeah, they were infecting the hard disk firmware, and then they were getting persistence. Another APT like that I would say like it was interesting is the one about satellite Turla. So Turla, Sofosy, Hades, the Russian-speaking APTs. And satellite Turla was pretty interesting, mostly because, in my opinion, they were deploying the malware. They were like infecting their victims, deploying the malware. But you know, when you have malware, you need to exfiltrate data. That's like the kind of the rule of the game. You cannot infect somebody unless you want to destroy its network and not have your malware ping back. And then there's a question like, how does the malware ping back? Like, will it use a domain? Will it use like an IP address? Will it use like a Tor, like a secret, what's it called?
Tor hidden service.
Hidden service.
Get out from the local LAN. How will it get through firewalls? Exactly. Intrusion prevention detection systems and the sandboxing.
Yeah. So whatever. Like they need to, like, once the attackers are into your network, they will deploy something, some code, some malware that they will have to scare your network. They will have to like a Trojan horse, and that malware needs to ping back to the attacker controlled servers, and they need to they need to send commands. So most of our work for when we're doing threat intelligence is to make correlations, and to see like this malware family is connected to this infrastructure of C2 servers, which is overlapping with the other malware family. So maybe we can say that it's the same attacker controlling the same C2 servers, or there are maybe two attackers who shared C2 servers, or maybe it's like a hosting company who is friendly with cyber criminals and it's not taking down their servers if there are complaints, if like police comes, yada yada. So this is threat intelligence, like making correlations. Of course, if you have a malware, we will identify the C2 server. And then sometimes, or most of the times, your C2 server will not last for a long time. And it will appear in logs, or maybe police gets involved, they might take your server, etc., etc. So how do you hide it? One solution is what you said, using a Tor hidden service. But Tor is not reliable. A lot of people are monitoring Tor, so yada yada. And then these guys came with the clever idea of using satellite IP addresses. Of course, they were kind of hijacking them, so they managed to find a way to hijack them. But the idea was that the IP address of the C2 server was actually an IP address of a satellite. So where is that IP address located? Well, the idea, you don't know. It's a subscriber who is being broadcasted by the satellite. And good luck. Guess what? A satellite, like the big ones providing internet and making internet connections, they are servicing an entire continent. This one in particular, like Southern Europe and Northern Africa and Central Africa. So yes, good luck finding the server.
Yeah, you can't really drive there and then knock on their doors.
But you don't know. No, you can knock on the network and they will say, well, the traffic, the IP address, it is satellite, satellite IP address, yeah? So basically the traffic comes from the victim goes to the data center. Then the data center broadcasts the traffic to the satellite, and then the satellite broadcasts the traffic through the entire fucking continent, and then it comes to the user, like it arrives at the user.
That's
So,
really
yeah.
cool using that
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah. All the things that I mentioned are on our public blog posts. It's basically, you can go to securelist.com, and this is where we publish our analysis. This is where we publish our research, latest research, latest stuff. And this is where you also find the stories with Satellite Turla, with Equation Group, and Lazarus, Bangladeshi Bank Heist.
That's cool. We'll have that linked in the show notes. But another thing is like when you find out that a virus or like an APT is being hosted by a specific provider, do you guys have any like good ways of communicating with that ISP and sending like legitimate abuse requests? Because I know both as a internet service provider and as a malware researcher is that as soon as you send an abuse complaint, it just gets put in the trash. So how do you kind of cooperate with the ISP to get them to remove?
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, we kind of cannot cooperate or don't have a lot of ways to not capacity. No. Like if you would ask me, I could send you right now. I could send you a list with all of our C2 servers that we know we track and they are active throughout the world. I can filter the list by the AS number, like autonomous number, like basically the ISP. I can tell you like for each ISP, if we know if there's like an active C2 server in there. I can do it right now, like in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Actually, this is like a service that we also sell through our threat intelligence portal, but whatever. I could do it, yeah? And I can, for example, I was doing like partnerships with like ISPs in Romania, and I was like telling them, hey guys, this is the list. Look, these are the like C2 servers. They're real. We check them. They are actually like active, and we have victims connecting to them. And the ISPs, like my friend, he's a really good guy, and he said, man, I can't do anything. I can't go to them and stop them because like you are Kaspersky for sure, but you don't have a legal way to stop it. So the correct and the legal way is you have the list, you go like with a law enforcement agency, you partner with them or with CERTs, and then the CERT can assess the list, they do their own research, and they go to the ISP and they say, hey, this is like a C2 server, shut it down or like disconnect it because it's spreading malware. But ourselves as a company, because we're a private company, we're kind of like legally, we're exactly the same as your company,
Yep.
We can just go to the ISP and like say, we have this intelligence, but legally we don't have any power.
Yeah. That is kind of sad sometimes that because you find, okay, here's an infected website or an infected box of some kind and it's spreading really bad malware. It would be easiest to talk to the ISP and then they can talk to their customer. But in majority of cases, anyhow, when I've said abuse requests, they just end up going nowhere because no one has or want to allocate the time of doing it and just deleting it and letting the customer.
Yeah, because there's like a lot of stuff happening on the internet, and some ISPs are flooded with abuse. The situation gets interesting when you there's like a victim on the ISP network, and the victim is doing like a DDoS, and maybe you have like 10 or 100 or 1,000 victims on that ISP, and all of a sudden the ISP is doing like a 10 gigabit, 100 gigabit DDoS to another one, and that's where they actually get panicked a bit and they stop, like the victims, they cut their internet. But if you talk about APT stuff, where it's like kind of stealth, they fly under the radar, they're not gonna do DDoS stuff, they just sit there with their C2 servers. You actually can't touch them that much unless you have a partnership with CERTs. We have like partnership with law enforcement, and you give them the intel and then they process it and they have the legal power to actually stop it. They have the legal power to intercept it. And this is kind of like a tricky subject, but they do have. This is the law. It is what it is. And we do have like good partnerships with like some certs also in Romania, also in Europe. But honestly, the volume is too much. It's too big. It's like,
yeah, it's way too much.
It's way too much. Yes.
It's a bit welcome to the internet as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of bad things. Something I want to pick your brains about is we talked about it a bit earlier, and it's different protection levels for different people. And let's say that you are a person of interest to one of these APT groups or one of those more sophisticated group that have some kind of either economical incentive or something. They have basically very hard, a very good reason to attack you. You might have $1 billion that they want, or what kind of protection mechanism should they take?
Whoa. Now, in order to answer your question, which I don't have the absolute answer, of course, you have to ask yourself, what is your threat model? Who are you? Are you like an average citizen, like browsing the internet? Let's say like my mom, she checks on Facebook, like yada yada, like uses some websites, some cooking recipes, and things like that. Yeah. Or are you like representative of the government with like some access to confidential data? Or maybe you are like a C-level executive of a company, and you also have like access to sensitive data. Are you like a head of the state, again with sensitive data? So you have to model your threat intelligence. Your threat model. You have to now let's go from the like lowest threat to highest. And actually you have to tell me like how much time we have, because I don't know based on that how much I will have.
We have half an hour left.
Okay.
Recording.
Okay.
So shoot.
Okay. So basically if you are like on lowest, like let's say lowest threat, you might be a person who says, but I have nothing to hide. There's nothing they can steal from me. I would say you're wrong. Because even your personal identity, your personal data, your email account, whether it's Gmail, whether it's like Yahoo, whether it's like Outlook, whatever, those accounts, they are actually worth some money to the attackers. $5, $10. But if the attackers, if they hit like 100,000 persons and they get access to 100,000 email addresses, instantly they get $1 million after they sell them, of course. So your data, you might be one person, but your data is still valuable. Of course, you might not be targeted by like super sophisticated and stuff like groups. But the way you can protect yourself is pretty easy. First of all, make sure that your internet hygiene is good. So same as on the like real world, when somebody approaches you and tells you like, hey, I have this like super interesting offer. Would you like to buy it? Like, come on, if it's too good to be true, don't do it. The same thing applies to the internet. Like, if somebody comes to me and says like, oh my God, you want this like amazing road trip to like Japan or to Las Vegas or to whatever, like just input your name and your card. Come on.
Or you have a rich cousin from some foreign account in Africa that just needs $5,000 and then they'll sell you $1 million.
Yeah. That was like the Nigerian scam. It was like crazy. Or let me tell you like how like this is like a campaign that is spreading in Romania. There's this like a local eBay like website with like where you can sell your stuff. It's called
like OLX, no?
Yeah, OLX. This one. Exactly this one.
Okay.
And basically in OLX, they people are actually selling genuine stuff. Like I have something in my house, I don't need it. Like I put an ad on it, and some people will call me, I want to buy it, and we just meet and I buy.
I bought a longboard on OLX last time I was in Romania, and I also bought, Wi-Fi antennas and some other stuff. It's legit.
Yeah, like people are saying legitimate stuff. Now, of course, they're gonna be like criminals, cyber criminals, who are like trying to abuse this system. And how do they abuse it? Simple. They say, "Oh, I want to buy your stuff. I've already paid for your product." That he doesn't say where, but in order to, I confused. If you want to buy something from them, they say they are selling a longboard, and you say, "I want to buy it from you," and you say, "I will send it through by mail." But in order for the product to arrive to you, you have to pay for post, and you say, "Okay." And basically, he gives you this link that looks like the original website, where you input your credit card to quotes pay for postage. And of course, like once they put your credit card information, they will steal some money, up to 10 euros, to 20 euros, to whatever they try, because they try a small batch. And of course, you will never hear from that guy again. He will delete the ad, he will delete the post. And that's it. Basically, it's like, don't trust, don't give money to strangers, and always be careful if somebody is asking you private information or like credit card information.
Absolutely, because you have identity theft, and then you have credit card theft, and you have all these kind of nasty things.
Your data is worth something. Maybe not much, but it is worth something. And why? I've seen cases where some people they got their identity stolen. So this is another case from some Facebook page. A friend of mine, somebody posted on Facebook saying that, "Oh, I have this job offer. Would you like to apply? Job offer for students." Because students, they just like they are more keen for any jobs. "So I have this job offer. Please apply." And then my friend applied, and he said, like, "Give me a photo with you holding your national ID card." And this instantly for me was like, ding, 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 like, no. She did it. She sent it to him, and then he blocked all communication. He like deactivated his Facebook. But the damage was done. The photo was there. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what would happen? It's just a photo. Well, think about it. When you register for like a new bank account because of Corona, you have the option to like register online. And what do they ask you for? They ask you for your ID, a photo with you, and holding your ID next to you.
Exactly.
So,
well,
of course,
a lot of online services running the KYC, know your customer thing, mostly thanks to AML laws and stuff like that. But you can open, exactly like you say, you can open the cryptocurrency exchange accounts, and you can open bank accounts, and you can do all kind of stuff
in her name. And then, like 2 years later, I hope not, she might find that she has like a loan or something that in her name. So this is kind of serious. And I told her, like, go to the police, because this is not okay. And the police has some tools to track the guy, like track him on Facebook, because this is identity theft. So your data is valuable. Now, if you're like a person in a company, or like in a access to data and stuff, they might, attackers might target you to steal the company data, or like we've seen cases where people who are doing like work from home, they got their malware, they got their laptop infected with malware, and then the laptop infected the entire network because they had like some admin tools, because they couldn't access some data, and just the IT admin said, "Okay, I'm just gonna give you admin," and then he forgot, or he or she forgot. So
exactly, and that's a way in. Often
that's a way in.
That's how you get in. Often you do the OSINT analysis of the people, and then you see that company X, employee X is handling the salaries because I read that on LinkedIn or something like that, and boom, there you have a target.
You reconnaissance, you do reconnaissance, and then kind of like, as I mentioned before, like a targeted attack. And then how to protect against this stuff, the same advice applies to also the lowest threat, the users we talked before, like have an antivirus installed, Don't click on a lot of emails. Treat everything you receive as like suspicious as possible. Don't install like browser extensions and like shady applications, stuff like that. And also kind of like, I would say, have a clear separation between your work laptop and your like private laptop. That's harder and harder to do with bring your laptop to work.
Bring your own device.
Bring your own device, BYOD. But this is how I would say it, like I've read on internet that, for example, on Google, there's no such thing as like your device. You don't even have root on your on your laptops, and everything that you don't have root, you don't have like access to, like everything you need to access to is like a two-factor with a key. You're not allowed to run anything on your locally. You only do it in the cloud, and like Google knows what it's doing, mostly because we go to the most advanced, like highest threat against like governments, against like big corporations, and they're monitoring. Also, I would add, if you're like I would say VIP person, and what do I mean by VIP? I mean like let's say a journalist, or like investigative journalist, or like a dissident, or like like Snowden, or like Kagashi, like rest in peace.
A huge target on their back. Yeah,
exactly. And we've seen the huge scandal with the NSO and their malware, their like Pegasus malware, and check out the
being the group from Israel that makes malware, calling it access as a service, right?
NSO, indeed, we can say was, because it got sued by Facebook. They got sued by a lot, and then also the Israeli government are like investigating them, and kind of they filed for bankruptcy. But come on, let's be honest. They're just gonna rebrand with a new company name, and they're just like the tip of the iceberg in how many companies are doing like surveillance and like this kind of shady practice.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there is a load of money into that, and
there is.
I won't say too much, but I know there's a lot of exploit developers that get charged a lot of money for selling 0 days to these types of companies.
Yeah, and basically those companies, they survive because they're making contracts, like questionable contracts with questionable governments around the world, and those governments then start targeting like specific people who are against those governments. So if you are such a target, or journalist, or like news person, or whatever, I would say I could say like a lot of stuff, like EDR, XDR, whatever, like two-factor use. These are all good stuff. But in the end, you still have to think that you might be owned. But the only thing that they cannot escape from, and this is also what Rob Joyce said in 2016 at Enigma, Usenix Enigma, he said, man, NSA is afraid of a sysadmin who is monitoring the logs. I would add, who is also checking the network traffic. So they are afraid of somebody who is checking the logs. And this is true in most, like I would say 99% of APT attacks, or like advanced malware or whatever, is that they are leaving traces. There's no way you can be like stealth as possible. You are gonna leave some traces, either if it's like in a reconnaissance stage where you like prepare to attack the victim or the company or whatever, or it might be during the deployment stage where you like go through the network, go through the computer. You are gonna leave traces, and you need to exfiltrate data, and that data is gonna pass through a network that is controlled by the victim. So the best way, not the best, one of the best ways to protect yourself is to monitor your logs, monitor your network traffic, in the hopes that you will identify the malware in a short time. And when I say short time, the ideal is +1 seconds. The worst time is 6 months, 1 year later, or never.
Yeah, finding them.
So if you're like going against like the big guys or like the big league, you might say, it's super hard for you to protect, to be like 100% protected. Of course, if you have like a computer which is not connected to the internet, even that computer is not safe, because if you have like enough money, you can just like hire somebody to break into your house and steal the computer.
Yeah, it's that's kind of the dilemma. The people that doing blue box and defensive security is that you're sometimes fighting against threat actors that have multi-million-dollar budgets. That's not always so easy to fight off when you have a threat actor that has basically unlimited budget.
Yeah. Nowadays, I've seen a shift in the ideology. I'm not a big fan of these new names, new acronyms, new whatever, because I haven't been for a lot of years in the industry. I don't consider myself like a guru or like I know everything. I'm still learning and I have a lot of things to learn. I've been seeing like a lot of jargon and a lot of like keyword buzzwords. And nowadays, or like 2021, the buzzword was zero trust networking, or I think this was zero trust. Everybody is doing zero trust. And fundamentally, it's a good idea. It's a good principle. For our listeners who, like, if you don't know, like, if you never heard of zero trust, the idea is that back in like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the defense plan or defense mechanism was kind of like a castle with multiple walls, or we could call it firewalls. So you might have like 2 walls, 3 walls, whatever, and you would assume that the attacker would not be able to like breach the perimeter, like enter your castle, And then what happened then? Like nobody paid attention to like the things that were happening inside the wall. Like if you were in, you would own everything. Like connections would not be encrypted, user accounts would not be like secured, but you might have like a really good firewall, yada yada. And they were trying to build this like really powerful walls to make sure that nobody enters. Nowadays, like 10 years later, the mentality changed, and I kind of agree with them, with like the new shift in mentality, which is like zero trust. So you assume the attacker is in your network, but he or she has nothing to do, because all the nodes, all the computers are also defending themselves. They're not trusting anything that comes from the trusted network. Everything is authenticated. Everything is like mutually authenticated, actually, and double checked. Kind of like this new mentality.
Yeah, let's jump into Yara rules quickly. First, what is a Yara rule?
So basically, how can I define it? Well, if you're searching for patterns, you would have to define, like if you're searching for malware patterns, you would have to use like some sort of a regex, yeah? And as a developer, like we've been using regexes for a lot of time, and you might say like, it starts with this string or this bytes, it has this like keywords in it, and like it needs to have like this special file size. But the problem is that using regexes, there's no way to define the extra characteristics of a file or of a format. A regex is a regex. Basically, what you match or you don't match. Now, Manuel Alvarez, he's like a super smart guy. He works for Virus Total. He developed this language called Yara, which he says and I agree with him, is the Swiss Army knife of pattern matching. basically Yara allows you to define patterns, not only one, two, three, like thousands of patterns, but also to define basically where the pattern should be, how many times it should match, but also extra stuff based on the file characteristics or the file format or the PE module, basically portable executable module. So Yara can say things like, I want to match all files that contain this specific registry name, which are less than 500 kilobytes, which have been created in this date ranges with, and let's say they have a digital signature from Microsoft, or they have like company name Microsoft, but they do not have a digital signature from Microsoft. And Yara allows you to do that. Yara basically, it's a kind of like a programming language, Turing complete.
So, for interrupting, but so Yara has support for like checking the signatures of the binaries as well.
Yara has support for multiple say modules. It has like P module hash, math module, imp hash, .net module. It has a .net module. You can check also the hash of the, you mean MD5 or SHA-1? No, this is what you mean.
No, the signature of the binary.
The signature.
Yeah.
Yes. You can. And this is what we do in our Yara training. We actually tell people that in order to have like really good Yara roles, first you need to check the signature of the file, because you don't want to check like a paint image. You know, a paint image is like, you want to check like executable files, MZ 4D5A or X4D5A. This is like the signature of the like MZ, which is like the .exe files. All the .exe files on your computer, they have like 4D5A. Linux files, they have like ELF signature, which is like longer. I can't remember it right now. Mac OS stuff, they also have like a different signatures, depending what you're hunting for. So in Yara, you can define this kind of stuff. You can say like, it needs to start with the 4D5A. It needs to have like this length, and it needs to have like this this patterns in it, like cmd.exe, registry hives, whatever you write in your Yara role to make it hunt for more malware families. So what do we use Yara for? We are hunting for new malware in the wild, or you can use Yara rules. If you are like a defender, blue team, you can get Yara rules from Kaspersky and other vendors, like there are a lot of stuff, or security researchers on GitHub. There are like a lot. And one, I would say like honorable and special mention, I would say check out Florian Roth, like OX Neo, I think is or something with Neo. But check out Florian Roth on GitHub. He has like a GitHub, like public GitHub with like a lot of Yara rules, like for a lot of malware, a lot of stuff. And you can use those Yara rules to catch if you have any malware in your network. So basically, whenever we identify a new malware, what do? We write a report on it. We generate a list of IOCs, indicators of compromise, domain, IP addresses, hashes. But of course, if I give you a hash, I would say like, Philip, this is the hash for the malware.
Yeah.
And you try to find if you have this hash on your computer. You might not have it because, like the attackers, they need to change 1 byte or 1 bit and the hash differs. They just need to append a null byte, or null, whatever.
It's a 0 or a 1 or a 0.
So, checking for hashes, it's good, but it's not the best. The best thing to do is you also can take from us, and when we identify a new malware, we also write Yara rules for it. What the malware consists of, if it's like protected, if it's like I don't know, like encrypted, if it's not encrypted. We identified those unique patterns of the malware we write the Yara rule from it, and then we give you the rule. And then you scan your entire computer, your entire net, or whatever, your collection of suspicious files. You scan them with the Yara rule from us, and you see if you have hits or not. This is how you use it.
Is there any like good practices you have? Because I assume if you're like completely new to Yara, you write some like you write a Yara rule and you say that hey, I'm looking for something that calls X, Y, and Z Windows APIs.
Yes.
How do you make sure that like to minimize the false positives?
Oh, wow.
You don't have
that's
like
a really,
one rule triggering on everything.
That's a really nice question. And actually, we do have a webinar which was held by my manager, Costin Raiu, on it's like a free tutorial on how to write Yara rules. And in the beginning, basically, he explains like some basic principles and stuff, which I'm going to mention here as well. Just briefly, I'm mentioning that we also have like a Yara training with like a lot of stuff that you have to buy it. It's like Kaspersky X training, but basically, you don't have to like pay like a lot of money to learn Yara. What you can do is watch the free webinar from us, because it gives an introduction to Yara and basically a TLDR of what what Kostin said in there, but I was also a moderator in there. The idea is that you will have a lot of false positives, because not only the malware you're looking for, but also legitimate applications. And when I say legitimate applications, I was saying NVIDIA drivers who are like they were like marked as malware, which were Yara rules, because they were like using like some, I don't know, some weird ways, some weird Windows API stuff. But they can do it. They have to do it. So you will have a lot of false positives. And a really good trick and a really skilled person writing Yara rules knows how to avoid false positives. And how we do it is kind of simple. We check like the header, some rules of the Yara club. First of all, we never talk of the Yara club. Secondly, we make sure that any rule is as good as it gets. You can improve your rule. And some tips and tricks of improving your rule. First of all, you need to check for a header, because you don't want to like check this like huge RAR archive, because the archive cannot directly like infect your computer direct. You're looking for like the signatures like MZ or L or macOS. Then you need to limit the size of the file, because if your Yara rule will start searching for a file which is 10 gigabytes, and the file is a movie, you're wasting the time. You're wasting the like hard disk, like reading the movie file. So format, file size, and you need to make sure that you don't use like really common patterns which are used by other like legitimate software. And how we are not defending, how we are solving this problem is that we have a collection of files which we know 95% we know that they are clean. And the collection of files that are clean, I'm talking about fresh Windows installation, a fresh Linux installation. Download software from Asus or software from HP, install it, and you have the files, or extract the files. A fresh iPhone installation, extract the backup, or like dump the files, it's like rooted, things like that. Or like a repository of files which are like used by Softpedia or whatever. Now, we kind of have an advantage because we have like Kaspersky has a huge collection of files. When I say huge, there's like more than 4 petabytes It's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to get a file from there. But not hard, but we have like special APIs to fetch the files from there. But we have the possibility to scan that entire collection with a custom Yara engine and to scan it and to actually do it. I can give you like a little trivia or like a not so known fact. We, in Kaspersky, like way before I joined, the guys, they actually created a language for matching, which was kind of like Yara, similar to Yara, but it was before. It was like before Yara. So we actually had a language that we used to classify malware, to write rules, matching rules, to hunt for the files, but only in our collection.
Yeah, like a pre-Yara thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of companies, they did have this kind of. I'm pretty sure we weren't the only ones who developed this language. It was our own language, but it was before Yara. When Yara was released, of course, most of us moved to Yara because it's open source. It's not, so it was easier. And now we can scale our collection with Yara as well. So we do have this collection. So what can you do is you create your own collection of clean files, and then you apply the rule that you created over those clean files. If it hits, you debug, see where it hits, and then you need to improve your rule. So it's matching clean files. And I can give you like a really short story, funny one. In our collection, we had some ASUS drivers.
Okay.
In 2019, we announced at SAS, also at our conference, it was April, we announced a huge supply chain attack on ASUS. So there was this ASUS updater, which was legitimate. It was from ASUS. It came from ASUS, downloading servers. It was signed by ASUS, but it contained malware. It was malware. We found it somehow. My colleagues found it. You can check their recording. Security analyst time it. The operation is called Shadow Hammer. Check for Shadow Hammer. Check for Shadow Hammer. You can see like the presentation at SAS. And the interesting fact, it was the malware came. It would install on your computer. Like a lot of victims, like a lot of people installed it. But the attackers had a list, MD5 list of 500 MAC addresses. Only if your computer had that MAC address in the list, they would download the second stager.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And we identified those 500 MAC addresses. I can actually tell you how.
Why did it have a whitelist of MAC addresses? Was it because it was targeting a specific?
Yes.
It was compiled for a specific architecture, or
no, not architecture. Compiled for specific computers. MAC address. A MAC address is the identifier of a network card.
Yeah.
So they were targeting the specific computers with those specific network cards.
Okay.
But we don't know who they are. We don't know. We actually launched a website saying that where you could check your MAC address. MAC address is a MAC address. Nobody cares. Like, it's not private information. And we would tell you, hey, you were targeted. If you want to talk to us, sure. Like, but nowadays, like, you can also download the Shadow Hammer malware, find the list of the MAC addresses, and you can like check if you were targeted. But we don't know. We don't know exactly which companies or why those 500 MAC addresses were there. But they were in there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It would be strange if they just went to the store and bought 500 different computers and were debugging on that. Well,
I don't. No. I don't think they were debugging. I think they knew exactly their victims. They knew their victims, but maybe they didn't. So one theory might be that they knew the victims, maybe from the network. Maybe they had access. Let's say.
Okay. It could be some kind of a targeted attack that the person X had.
It was a supply chain.
Okay,
yes, it was a supply chain. And maybe, let's say, maybe company XYZ, they managed to get into the network but they didn't manage to own or to like pop the specific machine. But they knew that the specific machine is having this MAC address, and it's using like a ASUS updater. So they did a supply chain attack on the ASUS just to target that machine.
Oh, that's smart. So you're creating kind of whitelist based on their eternal.
They did. They created a whitelist. Yes. Only if you had that MAC address, they would deploy the second stager. And unfortunately, we didn't manage to find the second stager because we kind of, when we analyzed it, I think it was kind of too late. Because, you can like fake the MAC address. You can spoof the MAC address, obviously. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. A Yara project that you kind of started and is involved in is a project called Clara. What is that?
Yeah. So basically, we wanted, like, it was in 2018. I said to my manager, man, we have this project, let's open source it because I want to contribute it to my friends as well. And Clara, it's a project that it's still active, but you correctly mentioned that it hasn't been updated in over 1 year, mostly because it's kind of simple and it does its job. And its main purpose is to take a Yara rule, and you have multiple computers with a collection of malware or clean files, and you submit jobs to scan this, to run the Yara rule over those files. And its main objective is to move scanning for those files with the Yara rule from your laptop into the cloud. Because, for example, we have a collection. Clustering, it's a cluster. Yes. We have collections of files which are 10 tera, 15 tera on one server. And we have multiple servers. Scanning this collection of files, even with SSDs, with RAID, it takes 10 hours on the 10 terabytes of disks. And you might ask me, hey, Dan, did you optimize the file system? We're using ZFS, optimized ZFS. We're using a RAID 5 with a speed of we achieved 2.5 gigabytes per second read speed. That is kind of we're hitting the cap of RAID driver. And now we are actually thinking of buying a server with M.2
M2 drives. That's cool.
M2 drives, because those M2 drives are directly connected to the PCI bus, whereas the SSDs are connected to the SATA through to the RAID driver, RAID card, which is then connected to the PCI Express. So I'm hoping that with those M2 drives, we might get better speed than 3 giga per second. That was the limit. So with 3 giga per second, we scan a 10 terabytes collection in 10 hours. So of course, you don't want to keep your laptop connected for 10 hours. Also, your laptop, maybe nowadays with the M2 drive, might have 3 terabytes per second. Maybe. But basically it's Yara in the cloud. You need to have kind of powerful hardware, but once you deploy it, it has a dispatcher and some workers, and you submit your job. You get picked by a worker, it's in Python, and those ones, they scan the files and report back the values. You don't have to keep your computer turned on for the night.
What happens if the Yara rule breaks or something like that? There's some bad syntax in the Yara rule. Does it?
That's a really good question. And initially, it would break it would scan and kind of report an error. But nowadays, basically, when you submit a rule, initially I try to run the rule over one file to make sure that the rule works. And if the rule says okay, then I fire it up on the big storage. And if the rule has syntax errors, it will report back. Yeah, the rule has syntax errors. Fix your syntax errors.
Oh,
yeah. So Clara, it's not super complicated. It's just a wrapper over the Yara binary. like the workers are actually spawning Yara.
That's cool.
It's just that. It's just a wrapper. It's just a way for you to, instead of like running from the command line, because basically if you never use Yara it's command line. It's just a binary. That's it. It doesn't have like a nice GUI. No. Maybe there are some other projects with nice GUIs and stuff, but we said we want a system that is like in the cloud, basically a web interface with users, with groups, where each user has access to specific repositories based on the groups. So it's kind of more advanced. Basically, we use it in our team. And we use it when we are doing like Yara trainings. We give out to our trainees, and basically, instead of giving them a USB stick with 36 gigabytes of clean files, we just tell them like, this is the web interface, post your Yara rule in there in like 5 seconds, because this is how much it takes to scan the clean file. In 5 seconds, you're going to get the results if your Yara rule is good enough or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there similar projects doing similar stuff, or
there are yes, there are some forks. I know like some guys from Deutsche Telekom, they were like improved this one a bit. There are like some projects from other vendors, from other companies who are like also like having Yara scanners and stuff. Well, I'm using this one because it suits our needs, and that's it.
That's dope. It's a really cool project, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
For scaling and executing Yara rule. Unfortunately, we're running out of time right now, but is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like to mention or dive deeper into?
Oh, wow. We could talk for hours.
I know. And we need to have you back multiple times.
Thank you. Well, I think there's one thing I would say. There is a shift in how attackers are launching their attacks, what tools they are using. Nowadays, they are using mostly open source tools because they want to blend in. Like 5 years ago, they would have to use like, let's get like a real example. Before Mimikatz, and maybe you can explain to our listeners what Mimikatz is.
Mimikatz is a post-exploitation toolkit, right? For those.
And
basically, if you have gained access as a red teamer, as a offensive, as someone attacking their network, and you basically need a way to do post-exploitation, you can use Mimikatz in order.
Mimikatz is a standard.
Yeah, you use Mimikatz in order, keep on the exploration and the attack chain. No, the attack model, maybe.
And basically, you have access to like a local account, and you want to escalate the privilege to like admin account. So before Mimikatz, those kind of tools still existed, but each attacker, like each group, had to build their own tool. And because of that, they were having like unique patterns, unique stuff. You would know which one is which. And they would have to deploy it. And once you would find that one, you would find like Mimikatz, Turla Mimikatz, let's say, or like Regin Mimikatz, or like Sophosy Mimikatz. Once you would find that one, you would like try to match, analyze, yada yada, and you would say like, oh, it's okay, so this one matches with another binary I know, which is some Sophosy, so you might be probably targeted by Sophosy. So nowadays, attackers, because of those open source tools, which are doing their job pretty well, I must say, basically attackers are using like a lot of open source tools, and only when they have access, only when they are making sure that they are in the network, they might not be caught, they are deploying their own custom. This is the shift and stuff. And I would say the golden age of APT attacks was 2010, 2020, beginning 2010 with Stuxnet. Check it out, Stuxnet with Docu, with like Red October, with Equation that I mentioned. Those were the times where, especially in the Stuxnet period, I wasn't there. I was just starting university. But basically, researchers were like finding this stuff, They were publishing blog posts, and other guys from other companies, or for example, from Symantec, they would say, "Oh, we also identified this one, but we found this one," and they would publish a blog post, and they would see it. There was like this crazy stuff, like who discovered Stuxnet. One of the people, I think the first one was like Sergei Ulatin from Vidus Blokada, who was a guy from like a company from Belarus. Sergei works from Kaspersky now. I met him. He's like a really nice guy.
Nice.
And there was this. I asked him like, how was it, And he said like, man, it was like a period of cooperation and stuff, and everybody was publishing stuff. And nowadays, it changed because a lot of companies are doing threat intelligence, including us. A lot of reports, a lot of our findings are under like paid portals, are not public. We do publish some stuff, but we publish with a delay. So I'm honest with you. Most of the stuff that we find is first published for our paid customers, and I think this is kind of like a regret of what it used to be in the past, where everybody was publishing,
I feel like most malware companies are doing that, and especially bigger companies that might or might not be Juniper or doing with snort signatures, is that they publish them first to their paid customers. And then maybe 1 month later, the average consumer gets them.
But there's also a good thing on this one, because we also publish like whenever there's like if there's like a big news, we also publish it. Like we analyze it, private report, and then publish publicly. So we do publish. The good side is that, and this is what I want to finish with, what it used to take us like 5, 10 weeks, months of reversing and finding samples, similar samples. Nowadays, us and other companies, for sure, they have like similarity engines where you shove the sample in it, you say upload, and then it tells you it's similar to this malware family, to this malware with this percentage.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. And basically, it takes like a week of 2 months. It gives good results in like 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
It's like behavior pattern analysis.
Behavioral pattern, similarity, we call it DNA. There are companies, like for example, the most popular one is Intezer. From Intezer, they have like a really nice product. I've seen it. They have like a really nice product. Oh. And other CrowdStrike also, I think they have some. We also have someone. But this is a game changer. This is what changed the industry, like a similarity engine. This is crazy. We'll see what the future holds. We don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with that behavior analysis and the more AI research and machine learning and teaching them. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool research. So, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. How do people stay up to date on what you're doing? How can people stalk you on the cybernet?
The most up-to-date stuff is on my Twitter account, like _x_x. And also I'm publishing some blog posts on SecureList, as I mentioned. But Twitter is the most up-to-date stuff. Also on Twitter, you can find some of my colleagues, I'm retweeting some stuff. So do check us out. We publish like cool stuff, and my colleagues are publishing cool stuff about like latest research, latest findings. I can just tell you, for example, 2 days ago, my colleague found like malware for ELO servers, HP ELO servers.
Oh, ILO servers.
ILO, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, like in management, it was malware designed for this kind of stuff. So,
that's really not good. And it goes back to the management engine that we talked about before. A quick recap for our listeners. ILO is a management system for basically all HP servers out there.
Yeah.
It's a way to control your box, basically.
Yeah. So this was also, he published it on Twitter, like check Twitter. It's like a lot of infosec, all the infosec people are publishing on Twitter. Yeah. I've seen some on Instagram. That was good.
Yeah, maybe TikTok will be the future.
Yeah, hope not. Please no. I like Twitter. It's good. It's okay.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for coming on Hacker Talk today with me and talking. And I hope we will have, I feel like we have a lot of things to talk about. So hopefully we'll do another episode pretty soon.
Yes, I will be delighted.
All right. So thank you for tuning into Hacker Talk. Thank you, Dan, so much. And to all our listeners out there, have a great day. Ciao.